Within Hypixel Skyblock, there's lots of different in-game currencies. For example, we have coins, we also have mithril and gemstone powder, we also have bits and then gems to an extent. But now we have copper. Now most people who have played Skyblock in the last maybe 2 years, at some point may have wondered how to spend the coins most efficiently, or how to upgrade the heart of the mountain most efficiently with the mithril powder. And I guess now is probably a good time to go over how to spend your copper efficiently, i.e. make the most profit, get the most use out of it, and basically not being wasteful. Now first of all, the way you obtain copper is basically via the visitors. To unlock more visitors on your island, you come over to your logbook, and from there you can filter to not unlocked, and then it shows you all the NPCs that you haven't unlocked. Essentially all you need to do is find the NPC and talk to them, and then it gives you the ability for them to visit your island. Now, every, I think it's 20 minutes, you get a visitor. And that visitor will give you an offer. They'll give you copper in return for some crops. And that's the reason crops like pumpkin, cactus and sugarcane, pretty much everything is ridiculously expensive at the moment. Now you might think, well great, I now have copper, but what do I do with it? Well, if you come over to your desk and you come over to the Sky Mart, you can now buy a range of different things with your copper. For example, you can buy a garden scythe, which is going to make it easier to clear out plots. A builder's ruler, which is just basically a rip-off of a builder's wand. You can buy the Sunder enchantment book, which is essentially harvesting, but for axes. You've also got your equipment, so your 4 pieces of equipment, and then your basic tools, which are not really too useful unless you pretty much just started the game. And then you've got your skins, which obviously are just cosmetic, so they don't really have any real use. Now, of course, items like the Sunder enchantment and also these equipments can be sold on the auction house. Well, the bazaar for the Sunder book. I'm sorry about this sound. Can you hear it? I'm pretty sure everyone's sick of that. Now, of course, the cost per copper is a little bit up for debate. What I mean by that is, well, a visitor just visited my island, and as you can see here, I spent just less than 3 million coins on the crops needed to trade for 88 copper. Although yesterday, I got an offer from a legendary visitor who was giving me over 700 copper for around about 4 million coins. Now, obviously, the higher you level yourself in the garden, the more chance you've got of essentially getting better offers, to put it quite simply. But realistically, you're not really acquiring the copper for the profit, it's more for the XP, the farming XP and the garden XP. So realistically, you're probably still not going to profit unless you get very lucky. But anyway, we need to take a look at what is more efficient. What makes more coins? Is it these Sunder books, or essentially is it these pieces of equipment? Now, one thing I need to mention is the fact that these Sunder books have plummeted in price in the past 2 days, as you would expect, as have these pieces of equipment, and they will probably continue to drop. Therefore, if you are sort of watching this video in the future, or maybe even the near future, because we can't really control what happens, you might want to double check this. But before we go any further, are you subscribed to the channel? If you're not, you should be. Become part of the 23%, there's really no reason not to. Anyway, when we take a look, we'll take a look at Sunder books first, because this is what I've sort of lent towards, but I've not really calculated it properly before. Now, Sunder at the moment is quite a sought after enchantment. Now, if you were to insta-sell a Sunder 1 book, that sells for 48k, and if you were to put an offer up, that's 58k. Now, from that, it may seem simple. 10 copper equals, well, let's say 50,000 coins if you insta-sell. But if you were to buy 16 Sunder 1 books and craft them into a Sunder 5, and then insta-sell that for 837k, that means that you're going to make around about 53,000 per unit. Or if you were to put a buy offer up, that would equate to 67,250 per unit. So realistically, you're much better off saving up until you have 160 copper and buying 16 Sunder 1 books and selling them as a Sunder 5. So really, your best case scenario is that you craft a Sunder 5 book and then put an offer up. It's going to make you the most profit. But when I say profit, it's going to make you the most coins. It might not necessarily be profit. And these books I would definitely recommend selling as soon as you possibly can, just because they're going to continue to drop. Only yesterday they were 2 million and the day before they were up to like 10 million. Obviously that was a bit of a crazy day. But if we put an offer up for the Sunder books, that equates to around about 68,000 coins per 10 copper. Now let's take a look at the equipment. We need to work out which one is the best for your book. So each Lotus bracelet is selling for around about 400k. 400k and it costs 50 copper, which equates to 80,000 coins per 10 copper. So this is actually more cost efficient than the Sunder books. Now we'll move on to the Lotus belt, which is selling for 750k per, and that costs us 100 copper, which equates to 75,000 coins per 10 copper, which is still better than the Sunder books, but isn't as good as the bracelet. Now to the Lotus necklace, these are selling for around about 1.3 million coins each. and that costs 200 copper. And that equates to around about 65,000 coins per 10 copper, which is actually slightly worse than the Thunderbooks. And then onto the Lotus Cloak. Now these are selling for around about 3.3 million coins, for the cost of 500 copper, which equates to 66,000 coins per 10 copper, which once again is worse than the Thunderbooks. Which means that, basically, if you want coins, the best thing to spend your copper on is Lotus Bracelets, and then you can from there sell them on. Now, the only issue we have here is, yesterday I had about 2,500 copper, and I spent it all on Thunderbooks because they were quite a little bit more profitable yesterday. If I spent them all on Lotus Bracelets, number one, I wouldn't have enough space on my auction house, and number two, they'd probably still be selling now. So in theory, Lotus Bracelets are going to make you the most coins, but they're going to take the longest to sell, just because of how many you would have to buy. The beauty of Sunder is that it's on the bazaar, so if you want to instant sell, then you can insta sell and still make a decent amount of coins. Now, it's important to know that these prices are definitely subject to change, and like I said, sell as much copper as you can now before it's too late, because otherwise it's going to continue to drop in price. Also, what should you do with your compost? Well, we have a composter here, if you don't know. I'm sure you do, because it's so loud. Essentially what you do is you put crops in this side and you put fuel in this side. Fuel you can buy from the desk, and crops you can buy from the bazaar or farm yourself. Over time, compost will be created. Once again, compost is an item that is just plummeting in price. It keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. Although the use for compost is basically to buy new plots, which is quite sort of integral to the update. And especially when you have a few plots, it can be quite expensive. As you can see, my next plot here is going to cost 48 copper. Compost. So if you're saving for a plot, then maybe keep it. But at the same time, that sort of depends on how long you estimate it will take to get enough copper if you're not going to buy it. Otherwise, I would recommend selling it before it's going to drop even further. The prices are just going to continue to go down. And if you're not looking at getting a new plot relatively soon, then I would recommend making your compost, selling it, and then once you need to actually buy a new plot, buy the compost off the bazaar, because the prices will be lower. Like, honestly, this I should just sell because it's going to drop in value even more while it's in there. Now, I just want to say, in regards to the whole update, if you are on Iron Man and you are persisting with the garden update, then you have my sympathy. I mean, it's very expensive for us people who play on normal profiles, but I'd prefer to be able to buy the crops and literally have to grind them out. I mean, I guess that's the whole point of the update, I guess, but it just must be so incredibly slow, and props to you if you're going to persist with it, really. But anyway, this video is pre-recorded a couple of days in advance because, well, San Marino is finally happening. So if some of the prices are slightly out of line, then that will explain why, but the principle is still the same. But I think that will just about wrap up today's video. I hope you all have enjoyed. If you have, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.